Who better to talk to about this than our friend Nick Tate, New York Times bestselling author and Obamacare expert. Also joining us via telephone, Kirsten Kukowski, who is Kirsten Kukowski, the spokesperson for the Republican National Committee. It is great to have both of you here. Kirsten, we appreciate you Skyping in. Get to you in just a second. Nick here alongside. Nick, you have watched this thing from its inception. Now today, yet another failure of healthcare.gov.
Well, maybe it's just ironic or predictable that they're stumbling over the finish line. But let me just be clear. You know, a lot of people have been talking about this as the finish line for Obamacare. We're really just at the starting line. It's not the finish line at all. There are many questions that are unanswered, and the end of the enrollment period just begins the process of determining whether or not this thing will do what it's designed to do, which is to create a stable health insurance program that allows people to buy insurance who couldn't get it or were unable to buy it before. We're really just beginning that process. But it is sort of ironic that they're stumbling over this line.
And let's talk to Kirsten, again, Skyping in from the Republican National Committee. One of the sweetest things that you can do in a political argument, Kirsten, is to say, "We told you so." Is that basically the position of the Republican National Committee as we're looking at this so-called deadline day?
Well, I think it is I told you so for a split second, and then we have to start realizing that this is impacting Americans. And I think that is why we need to do what we do, which is elect more Republicans that we can put in place in 2015 and again in 2016 after the next presidential cycle, to make sure that we can start getting rid of this law that is going to be hurting so many people across the country. So yes, it's an I told you so, because we did warn Democrats, and we warned people for many years leading up to today being the final day of the enrollment. But it's unfortunate that it's gotten this far, because it actually is going to be hurting people.
Well, you know, what's interesting is that we've already heard the folks going on the record from the White House talking about what a great success this is. Do you see it that way?
Oh, well, obviously not. I think that there are, like we were saying earlier, there are a lot of questions that still have to be answered. I think they think it's a success because they are nearing that promised 7 million sign-up mark. But we don't know who those 7 million people are. We don't know how many of them have actually even paid for their policies, and we don't know how many of them have actually started using the policies and how that looks. So I think it's really premature to talk about success, and I think that they had purposely set that bar, at that 7 million, when actually how many uninsured Americans there are is much, much higher than that. So I think it's a little premature, and there are a lot of questions that need to be asked and answered.
When do you think we'll see some of those answers? What are the things that you're looking for?
Well, I think we need to start hearing, where I'm looking forward to the White House press briefing in the coming day today, but also in the coming days, trying to figure out who the people are that they're already counting at the White House, that nearly, over 6 million, nearly 7 million at this point. We want to know how many people were actually uninsured in the beginning, who they're counting now. But we also need to know the demographics. How many young people, how many Latino, Hispanic Americans, etc. We need to know what the makeup of those people are. But we also want to have people come to GOP.com, tell us what you're experiencing with Obamacare, because some of this is going to be anecdotal. We don't know success until we start hearing from people about what their experiences are with Obamacare, with their actual.
Kirsten, let me take it the next step, and maybe it was taken by a doctor, not in the House, but in the Senate. Senator John Barrasso of Wyoming, just saying flat out that he believes the White House and the administration are cooking the books. Do you agree with Senator Barrasso?
Well, I think that he's probably onto something. I don't know really enough information right now to know if they're cooking the books. It doesn't all add up, and that's why I think the chairman, Reince Priebus's statement here this morning on the end of the open enrollment period was simply questions, because we don't know, and it does appear that the White House might be double counting people. The whole purpose of this was to get uninsured Americans health care, and that is a very simple question that they just have not answered. And so it does appear to us, absent of answers, that they might be quote unquote cooking the books, as the senator has said.
Well, Kirsten, it might seem like this might be a good time right now for the GOP, as I've said this before, to hold up your alternative to the Democratic version of the bill, or Obamacare, the Obamacare version of the bill, President Obama's signature piece of legislation. And there are a lot of folks asking, where is the Republican Party, the plan, whether it's a series of steps or one unified bill that the whole party is advocating for, instead of several of the alternatives. They do have alternatives, but there's a lot of them. This is an opportunity for the party to come forward and say, obviously this isn't working, here's our version, and where is that?
Well, there are a lot of discussions that are being had internally, I know, on the Hill, of what this looks like and what alternatives are to Obamacare. Chairman Priebus was out with an op-ed, a column in the USA Today last week, kind of laying out, saying, time and time again, the Democrats like to say the Republicans don't have solutions on health care. Well, that's a little bit of revisionist history. If you think back to how we got to Obamacare in the first place, they rammed it down everybody's throats. We were at the table wanting to have discussions about what the best way to move forward on healthcare is, but that didn't come to fruition.
And that's what makes it so frustrating, I think, for a lot of Republicans out there, is they do have ideas, they do have alternatives, but it's not like they're compiled together where it can be presented to the people in a simple, digestible way.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, and I think we are going to continue talking about what those alternatives are. Right here, right now, from a Republican National Committee standpoint, we kind of see it as our job to make sure that we go out there ahead of these November elections. Very important election to take back the Senate and put it into Republican control so that we can have the House and the Senate. And that puts a little more pressure on President Obama and what he's able to do and how we're able to go back and roll back the books on Obamacare. And so right now, we're on one hand, we have kind of two separate lanes that we're running down simultaneously. We need to talk about those broad picture, how the Republican Party can change healthcare for the better and move on from where we are. But also, we see ourselves as kind of being those messengers to tell voters exactly what they're getting themselves into as they go to the polls in November.
Yeah,
so we have a lot.
If they
of
don't
work
know
to do.
already what they're getting into by the cancellations and the premium increases,
Exactly.
more to come. Thanks a lot, Kirsten. Good to see you. We'll have you back here on the program.
And Nick, we appreciate your insights as well as you continue to monitor Obamacare. Say
Good to be
that
with you.
5 times fast. Great to have you, Nick.
My pleasure.
We would love to hear from you on this topic. You can get to us via social media by checking in at Newsmax TV, #America's Forum. You also got Facebook and email. Stay tuned.